Edward told me. James told Edward, and they heard all about it from Thomas.
When Thomas arrived at Abbey Station, Sir Topham Hatt was there. "Thomas, you must warn all engines not to cross the bridge until it's repaired," he boomed. Thomas felt proud. It was a very useful job. Just then he heard a whistle. Someone was coming. Thomas had to warn them. It was Neville, pulling Annie and Clarabelle. Thomas was shocked. Annie and Clarabelle were his carriages.
"Hello,"
puffed Neville cheerfully. "I'm not talking to you," Thomas huffed crossly. Neville didn't know what he had done. Then Emily pulled in next to Neville. "Hello," said Neville happily. Emily let out a whoosh of steam. "It's no use trying to make friends with me. I know you're going to biff into all the steamies, just like Arion Bert told you to." Thomas was surprised, but the station master blew his whistle, and Neville puffed sadly away. "Where did you hear that Neville is going to biff into all the steamies?" Thomas asked Emily. "Don't you know?" Emily whistled. "Percy told me, Edward told Percy, James told Edward, and you told James," huffed Emily. "But I only said to James that I'd seen Neville with Arion Bert." Then Toby arrived.
"Have you heard about Neville, the new engine?" he puffed. "Henry saw Arion Bert be horrible to him at the yards."
Emily was shocked. Thomas couldn't believe it. Neville wasn't friends with the Diesels after all. Where was Neville going? Emily tooted. "Cinders and ashes!" cried Thomas. "Neville's heading for the broken bridge. I must stop him." Neville was speeding through the countryside as fast as he could. Suddenly, Neville saw a barrier on the track. He slammed on his brakes. But it was too late. Neville was in terrible trouble. He was on the broken end of the bridge. Thomas knew it was all his fault. Suddenly, he had an idea. Thomas steamed slowly and carefully onto the bridge. He gently bumped Clarabelle and was coupled up. Thomas was very scared. Slowly and steadily, he began to pull Neville back from the edge. The bridge made a creaking noise. Thomas knew he must hurry. He pulled as hard as he could, and with one big puff, he pulled Neville's wheels off the bridge. Thomas had done it. He had saved Neville and Annie and Clarabelle. "Thank you," whistled Neville. "I should have warned you," puffed Thomas, "but I was too busy believing silly stories. I thought you didn't like steamies, but now I know I was wrong." Thomas gave Neville a long, friendly toot-toot. Neville was very happy. At last, he knew he had a good friend in Thomas. Thomas is a hard-working steam engine. Steam engines make lots of different sounds, and the sounds sound different in different places. Thomas's whistle sounds like this in the countryside. But what happens when he's in the quarry? The sound of Thomas's whistle has changed. Thomas's whistle echoes. Thomas wonders which of his other sounds change. What about Thomas's brakes? In the countryside, Thomas's brakes sound like this. But what happens when he's in the quarry? The sound of Thomas's brakes has changed again. Thomas's brakes echo. What about Thomas's wheels? In the countryside, Thomas's wheels make a clickety-clack sound on the track. What happens when he's in the quarry? The sound of Thomas's wheels has changed again. Thomas's wheels echo. Thomas is only one engine, but he can make a lot of different sounds. Thomas is arriving at his favorite station. But today, Thomas knows that something about the station has changed. Can you help Thomas find out what it is? Take a look. What's new about the station today? Is it the benches? No, the benches aren't new. The benches were at the station yesterday. What else could be new at the station? What about those posters? No, the posters aren't new. The posters were at the station yesterday. Thomas is sure something has changed. What else could be new? What about those hanging baskets? There were no hanging baskets at the station yesterday. That's right, Thomas. You found out what's new at the station today. It's the hanging baskets. Thomas thinks the station looks even prettier than yesterday. Bulgy rides again. In the summertime, there is no better place to be than the island of Sodor. The engines are happy to show vacationers the wonderful sights to be seen. But this year, there was a problem. Thomas and Emily were in the foundry for repairs. "I need to find a way to carry more passengers," grumbled Sir Topham Hatt. "We have more vacationers." "And fewer engines," said Emily. "A double-decker problem," added Thomas. A double-decker problem? This gave Sir Topham Hatt an idea. He drove straight to Bulgy's field. Bulgy is a double-decker bus. He was turned into a hen house after he caused a silly accident.
Good news, Bulgy. I'm putting you back on the road.
Thank you, sir. I'll be the best bus ever. Bulgy never liked being a hen house anyway. The next day, he went to the foundry. "Bulgy," exclaimed Thomas, "what are you doing here?"
I'm being repaired. I'm going back on the road.
"I think you'll be helping the new farmer," said Emily. "He needs to deliver his vegetables around the island."
Vegetables? I'm going to carry passengers.
Soon, Bulgy was refitted inside and out. He looked smart and shiny. Even James was impressed. Ooh! When Bulgy returned to his field, the hens thought their old house looked splendid. "We'll start in the morning," said his driver. "You'll stay here tonight." Bulgy was soon fast asleep. But the hens missed their old home. One by one, they crept aboard and went to sleep in the luggage racks. Bulgy knew nothing. The next morning, Bulgy picked up lots of passengers. "All aboard," he tooted, and set off for the station. He was driving so smoothly that the hens didn't wake up. All was well until Bulgy turned a corner. Trevor was pulling a hay cart. "Get out of my way!" He overtook Trevor. Bulgy swerved. The hens woke up. The passengers panicked. And Bulgy's driver lost control. The hens were frightened. They flapped, they squawked. "Stop!" cried Bulgy's passengers. "We want to get off!" The passengers were covered in feathers and broken eggs. They were very cross. "This bus is full of hens," they complained. "We shall tell Sir Topham Hatt."
It's not my fault, sulked Bulgy.
Sir Topham Hatt sent Bulgy to be cleaned.
Silly hens, silly passengers, you can have them both.
"The farmer still needs help with his vegetables," said Emily.
A vegetable bus? Hey, that's not such a bad idea.
"And we're back carrying passengers," smiled Thomas. Bulgy is happy now. He has new green paintwork and a smart serving hatch. Sir Topham Hatt agreed he could become the island's only vegetable stand on wheels. Bulgy likes carrying vegetables. They don't lay eggs, and they never complain. Today, the suspension bridge on the island of Sodor is closed. Thomas has to take a new route to the children's school. Percy tells Thomas the way. First, Percy tells Thomas, you go over Gordon's Hill. Then, steam through Kelsthorpe Station. And then, along by the old windmill, until you arrive at the school. Thomas is ready to set off for the school. Can you remember where he goes first? First, Thomas goes over Gordon's Hill. Then, through Kelsthorpe Station. Now where does he go? Along by the old windmill, until Thomas arrives at the children's school. Did you remember all those places? Thomas did. Well done, Thomas. Toby feels left out. It was springtime on the island of Sodor. All the engines were working hard in the sunshine. One morning, Sir Topham Hatt arrived at Tidmouth Sheds. He had some exciting news.
The new Sodor Museum opens soon, he announced. Lots of very important people will be coming to the island for the grand opening.
What's a museum? Asked Percy.
It's a place where they put old things so people can stand and look at them, huffed Gordon. I want you all to look your best, so everyone is to have a repaint.
All the engines were very pleased. Later that morning, Toby met James at Knapford Station. Have you heard about the opening of the new museum, puffed James? We're all having a repaint. I shall look wonderful with a brand new coat of red paint. I've not heard about that, said Toby. Why hasn't Sir Topham Hatt told me? You must have been left out, chuffed James. And he steamed away. That night, Toby couldn't sleep. He kept worrying about what James had said. Why hasn't Sir Topham Hatt told me about the museum, he wondered. Why have I been left out? By the next morning, Toby thought he knew the answer. He met Thomas at Abbey Station. Have you heard about the museum? Asked Toby. Yes, puffed Thomas excitedly. We're all being repainted. I'm not, puffed Toby sadly. But I think I know why. I am a very old steam tram. Maybe Sir Topham Hatt has decided to put me inside the museum. Thomas wasn't so sure. Why don't you ask him? Puffed Thomas helpfully. Toby looked worried. He was frightened of what Sir Topham Hatt might say. Must go, puffed Thomas. Really useful engines are really busy ones. And he chuffed away. Toby thought for a moment. I'll show Sir Topham Hatt that he can't put me in a museum, said Toby. I'll show him I'm a really useful engine. Toby arrived at Tidmouth's sheds. Sir Topham Hatt was talking to Emily.
Emily, you must go to the yard for your repaint,
said Sir Topham Hatt. Emily was very happy.
Another engine must collect your flour,
said Sir Topham Hatt.